Welcome back to T&K Sports Talk, everybody. My name is Thomas.
I'm Kevin.
And this week, if you can guess from the teams behind me, we're going to continue the series and talk about the AFC South. I think this will be one of the better and most competitive divisions that we're going to be watching this NFL season. And it's definitely one of the most interesting divisions from an off-season standpoint, because every team in the division has made big acquisitions in the offseason, with Jacksonville, Trevor Lawrence, Colts with Carson Wentz, Titans with Julio, and then you have the Texans with the whole Deshaun Watson thing. So which one you want to jump into first, Kev?
Let's go with our former quarterback. Let's start up with Colts. I feel like this is one of the teams where you look at them as the favorite in this division. You know, last year you look at the Colts and like they went far with Phillip Rivers, and like he once again, like he can't stop. Like he comes from Philadelphia where he had to be that guy, and he was for a little bit, then things went sour. But now here we are in Indianapolis, and it's a new start. You know, the main focus is, can Frank Reich, the former Eagles offensive coordinator, when the Eagles won their Super Bowl, can he revive Carson Wentz? And if he does, you know, it works out for Philly, because, I mean, Philadelphia gets that extra first-round pick with the trade. But right now, the Colts, on paper, look like the best team. I mean, if you're Carson Wentz, when you got that call saying that you were traded and you got told Indianapolis, you were pretty happy, because that offensive line is easily the best in football, in my opinion. And he has plenty of weapons there that not only are there for him, but he can help them grow. You know, you talk about guys like Michael Pittman, you know, that Wentz can grow with, help him grow. And T.Y. Hilton, you know, the ever so elusive veteran out there for the Colts. What can he do for Carson? You know, it's a two-way street. I feel like T.Y. Hilton can do a lot for Carson Wentz's growth. Like maybe tell him that, listen, like it doesn't have to be all about you. You know, like we're still the guys running the routes. And, you know, if I don't run it right, don't beat yourself up over it. Because that's where I think a lot of things fell sour in Philadelphia for Carson, is that he felt like he had to do everything. And, you know, there's a lot of blame that you can put on both sides. You know, Wentz wasn't his best the past couple of years. You know, he turned into a turnover machine. And, you know, then there was front office issues that wouldn't give Wentz the help that he did need. And, you know, here we stand on that divorce. But right now, the Colts are the favorite for me in this division, simply just because the Colts went far enough with Phillip Rivers last year. And if Frank Reich revives, Carson Wentz, then this team can really do something.
Yeah, I agree. I think the Colts are definitely the favorites, because they really, a lot of Colts fans and everything around the Colts, especially in Philadelphia, is all around Carson Wentz. You know, how's Carson Wentz? Are we going to see MVP Carson Wentz again with Frank Reich and everything? Or is he going to be like last year's Carson Wentz? And really, I mean, obviously the quarterback position is the most important position on the field. But that team is so talented in so many different aspects. Like there's going to be games where that Colts defense with DeForest Buckner and Darius Leonard and Kenny Moore, where the defense just completely wins the game for them. And then, you know, they got some really good running backs in Jonathan Taylor and Nyheim Hines, who, you know, a couple games running the ball is going to win them the game. As long as Wentz can play good enough to, you know, not lose the games, really. Like, they're completely different in talent, but they're built almost similarly, I feel like. I feel like Carson Wentz needs to be like the Alex Smith of the Redskins last year. Alex Smith didn't really win the football team, he didn't really win them games last year, but he didn't lose them. As long as Carson Wentz doesn't lose games for the Colts this year, I think they're probably going to win the division.
Yeah, because unlike Philadelphia, where, no disrespect to like our guy Miles Sanders, but like now he goes into not only a division that is so much less competitive than the NFC East in terms of like defense and just all around intensity altogether, like because the rivalries in the NFC East are just insane. But you look at this division, it's not as brutal, it's not as rival based as other divisions are, but way here. But again, not any disrespect to our guy Miles Sanders in Philadelphia, but you look at a guy like Jonathan Taylor who can easily get you 4 or 5 yards from just setting his feet and falling forward. And then, Nyheim Hines, who can line up opposite side Carson and take a screen pass to the house for 50 yards. Carson's job is getting ready to be really easy in Indianapolis. Like you said, all he has to do is not lose games by himself for the Colts to go anywhere. As long as Carson Wentz stays within himself, and now we could be wrong. Carson Wentz could be officially broken. And it would hurt to say, because he's an all-around great guy and, what was once looking like a great quarterback, like what happened? Like, is it in Carson's head, or is this all he needs is Frank Reich? Because it's no coincidence that when Frank Reich left Philadelphia to head coach the Indianapolis Colts, that slowly but steady Carson fell away.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, I think one of the biggest things with Carson and his demise in Philadelphia was definitely that offensive line. Like, he was the most set quarterback in the league last year. And I think having Quentin Nelson and Ryan Kelly and Eric Fisher, having that in front of you, completely weapons aside, is going to help you out immensely. And then, you had T.Y. Hilton in, that's one of the best, if not the best weapon that he's ever going to have at that wide receiver position in his career.
Yeah.
And then, like you said, there's so many young players on that team, like Paris Campbell and Michael Pittman and Taylor and even Mo Alley Cox at tight end. Like, there's definitely enough weapons on that team. And with the coaching of Frank Reich, like, you can almost tell too in Philadelphia or in Indianapolis with having Reich, with him being a little more in the country than being in Philly with the Philly media, you can tell he's more comfortable. He's having a better time, it seems like. And like, he's going out being on the Pat McAfee show and then posting stuff on Instagram. Like, it seems like he's more comfortable. And if he's more comfortable with a better team around him, with a coach that he loves, I mean, there's no reason why Carson Wentz won't be able to definitely lead them to the playoffs. The real question is going to be, because we haven't seen a lot of Wentz in the playoffs, of, how can Wentz lead them to anything more than that is the real question.
Yeah, because, you win this division, like, it still might only get you the wild card, and in which case, like, sure, you'd have a home game in Indianapolis, but then you got to go on the road the rest of the time. Like, we've never seen Carson in a road atmosphere like that. Like, the closest playoff atmosphere he's ever encountered was actually in his MVP type season when Philadelphia traveled out to Seattle, and Carson Wentz he didn't do too hot. It was his letdown game of his MVP year. So, I mean, if he's going to do anything for the Colts and for them to have any confidence in him, not saying he has to win the division or win a playoff game or anything. I'm just saying, if he wins them the division and they got to go out on the road, he needs to not feel that pressure and just go out and continue to do what got him in that position.
Yeah. And as Eagles fans, all we can do is cross our fingers that the Colts are absolute garbage next year, but Carson Wentz plays 75% of the snaps.
That is best case scenario, but I do not see it happening unless that entire offensive line implodes. Like,
Yeah, I agree.
but we go from the favorite in the AFC South to the league favorite. I think we all know it is the Houston. I'm keeping them of any sort of relevancy is unfortunately Deshaun Watson and his allegations. It's ugly, man.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, I don't think that there's any chance that we're going to see Deshaun Watson suit up for the Texans again. I mean, I'm not saying he's never going to play again, but I don't think he's ever going to play another game for the Houston Texans. And I mean, that team.
I'd be shocked.
Yeah, and with that team last year, with Deshaun Watson, if you look at his numbers, you could easily have made the case for him last year to win MVP as well. And they still only won about, I think, 4 or 5 games. So now you take away Deshaun Watson.
Yeah.
You lost J.J. Watt as well. I don't think their coaching hire, David Culley, he wasn't at the top of anybody's boards, really. Not saying he's not going to be good, Look at Doug Peterson. He wasn't at the top of anybody's boards. But since it doesn't seem like it's really going to be a good year for Texans fans, I mean, they're going to be watching a lot of Tyrod Taylor down there. And I know they signed Mark Ingram at running back too. So now they have like Mark Ingram and David Johnson. You got 2, kind of washed up running backs at this point.
I was gonna say that. Yeah, you're not convincing Deshaun Watson to want to stay right now.
No, definitely not. And
I really don't. I really don't think it's up to him at this point. I really don't think it's up to Deshaun Watson right now. It's we had the mighty E-Rock on the show last week. It doesn't matter what we think. All that matters is the guy that's sitting next to the phone. And right now, Deshaun Watson isn't that guy. It's the GM. The GM has to be the one to pull the trigger. So this is only one of 2 ways. It could be irrelevant 7-win season max. You try to convince a team to give you as much as they can within reason, and try to build another foundation. It'll lead to some dark times for the Texans. They'll be back to David Carr territory. But if you're going to do this, you got to do this right. And I think the only way for the Texans to salvage their franchise is by getting rid of Watson. No matter where you stand on his allegations, I feel like it's only a matter of time before you do get that alert on your phone and that he got traded for, at least 3 first-round picks. That whole wanting five high picks and multiple players, you're not going to get that. Someone's going to give you at least enough in a player return to wind down those high picks. But I think it's only a matter of time before out of nothing at the quarterback position, and they see Watson out there and like, what, just pull the trigger. Like, let's see what happens. And to be honest with you, it could even end up being Miami to out there, but they have not committed to him either. Like we see it all the time. When there's a quarterback out there that a general manager is in love with, he's going to choose that quarterback over the young guy who still has a lot to learn. And right now, I think Miami is the best suitor right now because they have a lot to package and they actually have some decent players to give up too if they so choose.
Yeah, I agree. I think Miami would be a great spot with them. And with the Texans, I think like it's going to be a very bad season for them. But honestly, I think Houston Texans fans should still have hope and a lot of it because, so say, they don't trade them this year, they end up with the number 1 overall pick. And then they trade Deshaun Watson, get, say they trade him to Philly, they get our 3 first-round picks. So now they're sitting next year with a lot of cap space, the number 1 overall pick, and another 3 first-round picks. So it's sort of 4 picks in the first round. I mean, I know the quarterback prospects aren't looking great right now for next year, but there's always that, like, Joe Burrow that pops up out of nowhere or something like that. They could easily.
There is always one.
Yeah. So, they get their quarterback next year. Maybe they use those other 3 first-round picks, surround them with weapons, and who knows? Maybe next year they got, this young stud at quarterback who we're all talking about, and they have this great offense, and maybe they're the favorite. I won't say it's going to be that fast of a rebuild, but they definitely have some hope there. But if they didn't have Deshaun Watson at all, or if these allegations get proven to be true, and they can't trade him, and he's just forced out of the league, then it's going to be a dark time for them for a long time, because Deshaun Watson is really going to be the assets that they get for him is going to be the only hope that they really have to having a successful rebuild.
Yeah, because hypothetically, you look at the Texans, let's say you choose to keep him. We haven't heard anything about any possible suspensions or anything like that. You can't tell me that it's not, in the back of Goodell's mind, he's always got the trigger finger when it comes to handing out a suspension. If even one of these gets proven to be true, you're at least without Deshaun Watson for at least maybe 8 to 10 games with how serious these, stories are. I've read every single one. He's asking for, favors in massage rooms and the whole 9 yards, and dating women and touching multiple in bars and horrible ways. So I mean, if any one of those gets proven to be true, Deshaun Watson is gone for half the year. And if you're the Texans and you're letting that drag out, your want and what you're getting drops significantly, because it's look, we're not going to give you this many picks when we still have to end up paying him in the end, and one of his years is already wasted because he's suspended. That's not what teams are going to want to look at. So if I'm the Texans right now, and if a team calls, whichever team calls first, I feel like they better be on the phone with them for at least maybe 2 or 3 hours to try to work something out. Because if that said team pulls the trigger and gives the Texans what they want, and then Watson gets suspended for that time, then the Texans look really smart.
Yeah, they're definitely gonna be I agree. If they wait too long, they're risking that fact that maybe I know they have Deshaun Watson has all of his allegations and there's investigations going on. But if I was the Houston Texans, I'd try and have the biggest investigation I can have possible to try and find out before everybody else does, to know, okay, should I try and keep this guy or get rid of him? And I obviously hope the allegations are not true, because some of them were pretty disturbing and everything. Hopefully, none of that stuff actually happened. And as long as it didn't, I really do hope that, maybe it can be in Houston, but I hope he does go to a Miami where they would be an instant contender, because, when you have a Deshaun Watson in his prime, playing great, putting up great numbers, it's not really fun whenever he's on a 4-12 team. Patrick, everybody talks about Patrick Mahomes right now, Madden or cover of Madden, all of this. If the Chiefs only won 2 games last year, nobody would be talking about Patrick Mahomes. So I definitely hope that he can go somewhere and he can, really succeed and they can win some games, because it's fun for the league and it's fun for everybody whenever, the best players in their prime aren't having their careers wasted.
Yeah, because unfortunately the league already saw it happen with Michael Vick. Unfortunately, those horrifying allegations were true, about dogfighting ring, and Michael Vick lost what could have been his prime. He was found guilty in 2006 going into 2007. Then he signed with Philly in 2009, I believe was the timetable. But I mean, you look at those years. I mean, Michael Vick in 2004 was in the NFC Championship game. 2005 he suffered a leg injury. In 2006 he comes back, and you find the dogfighting ring, and he's gone for like almost 2 years. So like his prime was gone. Like that dynamic 2004 Madden cheat code Michael Vick was gone, and it would suck to have that happen again to such a promising young quarterback to his own mistake. It's like you said, the league is so much better when it has its players in their prime. But you know what? If these things do hold true and Deshaun Watson is found guilty of like more than one or two, it could mean the death for his career. I mean, someone will always take that chance, but I mean, a defense that's gonna like see that guy under center, that not to get graphic or anything, but they're gonna want to like rip his head off, because all those guys have wives, girlfriends, like their wives are mothers, and like some of those women in those allegations are mothers, and like it's those guys are gonna want to take his head off if they see him again, and some could even be his own teammates, if these things are true. He'll lose every bit of faith and respect in that Texans locker room.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, if they're true, I don't think that he should play down in the NFL again, because there's plenty of kids who have worked their butts off to try and make it to the NFL and everything. I get Deshaun Watson's super talented, but if he's really that big of a scumbag, then there's just no place for that. But and really, I mean, if they are true, I guess it'll really come down to the NFL and the Houston Texans if he will play again. But I guarantee you, if they come out to be true, there's not going to be any team that wants any part of that. They might be offering 3 first-round picks right now, but in, say, a month, if they are all true, they're going to immediately pull that offer and not even offer a 7th for him.
It's getting ready to be a crazy, few weeks. Today was the universal like training camp started today. The next couple weeks are going to be really telling of where these allegations lie, because I mean, like, I don't think you can go into the regular season right now with those allegations still at their height and have Deshaun Watson playing. Like, I think that's really what this is going to come down to. Like, honestly, if it goes into the regular season and nothing's found out yet, I don't think Deshaun Watson plays. I don't think you can put him out there.
No, I don't think you should either. No.
Like, because, then, like we just said, like the Texans have to be smart. They have to have their hand by the phone. They have to have a close ear with everything. And if this carries on and say, like, we don't find out anything until like week 4, week 5, like, I don't think it would be wise to have Deshaun Watson out there to, like, let's say he is innocent of these things and, he's an innocent man. And who knows what happens then. But then you have a fresh Deshaun Watson who didn't have any distraction. He can come in with a clear and clean mind and lead the Texans and hopefully keep it steady Eddie and keep the Texans afloat, because he is their only way of floating right now. I mean, without him, they sink.
Yep, absolutely. I mean, honestly, I think if they have to go all season with no Deshaun Watson, I'd have to really look at their schedule and see what it's like. But I won't be shocked if we're looking at another 0-16 team right there. I know it's been a while since it's happened, but
yeah, you got to be a pretty special team to go 0-17 now.
Oh yeah, it's 0-17. So they'll be the first team to do that.
Yeah, wouldn't that be something? Yeah. But speaking of another team that has had a dark past but could be on the rise now, and that is the team that held the first overall pick in this year's draft, and that is the Jacksonville Jaguars. I mean, Urban Meyer, Trevor Lawrence. I mean, we'll see what happens with this. It could be really good or really bad. I mean, Urban Meyer, legendary college coach, and he took on the Jaguars job because it was clear they were taking Trevor Lawrence. That was the only play that they had to get Urban Meyer. And now that he's here, Urban Meyer does the most Urban Meyer thing ever. He brings in freaking Tim Tebow to play tight end. he brings in his old Florida prodigy, but that won't lead to anything. Tim Tebow is literally there to just be more support for teammates, and that's that. I would be really shocked if Tim Tebow goes beyond preseason week 2 on the roster. It would be, I don't want to say catastrophic, but it would be a huge mistake if Tim Tebow makes the final 53 of the Jaguars. Not that it would stir up any sort of quarterback controversy. It's Trevor Lawrence's team. Let's put that out there right now. Trevor Lawrence is going to be the quarterback of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Unless he proves to be a total freaking bust in 3 years, he won't just be the Jaguars quarterback for 4 years. He's going to be in Jacksonville for a long time. If he proves to be serviceable or even great, is he finally that franchise quarterback? He was slated as the first overall pick ever since he squashed Alabama in his national championship game as a sophomore. He's been slated as a franchise quarterback ever since then. And, all last year was between them and the Jets. Tank for Trevor. Yeah, we'll see. But Jacksonville has their hands on him. They still have a lot of work to do. They're not done. They weren't just a little back away from competing. This is still going to cause any noise in this division, in the conference, in the NFL. But Trevor Lawrence is a good start. And hey, if Urban Meyer proves that, can he finally be the college coach that makes it work in the NFL? We saw it with Saban, saw it with Chip Kelly. Now we get Urban Meyer. Pete Carroll is pretty much the only exception, to making a college coach work. But right now, I think if you're a Jacksonville Jaguars fan, there's a lot of reason for hope. I don't think they'll be last in this division by any means. I think that's solely the Texans' spot. But I think Jacksonville, if all things click, they could easily, make a little bit of noise. Don't discount them just because they're a young team. We see it all the time. These young teams can be stingy. They can make you look over your shoulder a little bit, and all of a sudden they're only a game back of you, and they play you in 2 weeks type of team. Jacksonville can be the sleeper of this division by a large margin. If the Colts or the Titans don't have as good a year as people shape them out to be, Jacksonville could be right there. And everyone wants to joke about the NFC least and all that stuff, but this is a 3-team race if the Colts or the Titans don't have their act together out of the gate.
Yeah, absolutely. The Jaguars are going to be a very interesting team to watch this year because, there's huge question mark about Urban Meyer, huge question mark about Trevor Lawrence. Everybody thinks he's going to be great, but you never know with a rookie, especially his rookie year. So there's 2 huge unknowns there and 2 of the biggest positions on the team. But I think they're going to do pretty well because if you look at last season, they only won 1 game. But they're a very young team with a lot of potential. They definitely have.
They lost games because they were inexperienced.
Yep. You look at a lot of the games that they lost last year, they were still close competitive games. They did have their games here or there where they got blown out, but they do have good players on that team. They have Josh Allen at defensive end. That dude's a stud, at rushing the passer. And then they got CJ Henderson and DJ Shark, and you got a couple good players on the O-line, and they got Sidney Jones that's actually playing somewhat well that I don't really want to talk about. Miles Jack at linebacker. They definitely have some players on their team. It's not I'm happy Trevor went to the Jaguars because I feel no offense to Jets fans, but I feel like the Jaguars have more talent than the Jets do.
They're a little bit closer. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm not saying, Trevor Lawrence is going to come in because, you look at a lot of their losses last year too. They didn't have, great quarterback play. They had Mullet Minshew, but that's about all they had. So, if Trevor Lawrence can come in, I'm not saying he's going to immediately be Patrick Mahomes right away, but if he can come in, play some good football, try and win some of those close games, because I feel like a lot of them, win or lose, are going to be close games. It's really going to be, Trevor Lawrence can be a great fourth quarter quarterback. I mean, I don't want to. They're right on the verge of making the playoffs. I don't think they're going to make the playoffs in the first year, but like you said, I think it's going to be a 3-team race. I think 2 of the 3 teams in this division are going to make the playoffs. I think it's probably going to be the Colts and the Titans, but with injuries and all the unknowns and everything that could go on, Jaguars could easily sneak in there and find themselves a wild card spot.
Yeah, and I think the most important part for Trevor Lawrence is he needs to not be in his own way. Because, I mean, like, a lot of people know this, but Trevor Lawrence has not lost an organized football game since Pee Wee. He hasn't lost a regular season game. Think about that. He has not lost a regular season game in organized football since he was a Pee Wee. And he cannot go into the NFL with that expectation. I mean, sure, like, I'm sure that's not in his mind. Like, yeah, I'm going to go 17-0 every year. But, like, you can't let yourself be your own worst enemy if you start out the season like 0-2. You need to stick to what got you there, what got you picked first overall. Be that guy. Don't be Tom Brady. Don't be Patrick Mahomes. Don't try to be like any of these guys. You know what it took to get you here, so do it. That's why the Jaguars picked you. That's why everyone had you as the first overall pick for years. So be that guy. Be your own quarterback. Because to me, that's the only way that this is going to work for the Jaguars and Trevor Lawrence. If Trevor Lawrence is his own worst enemy, it could mean the demise, unfortunately. Like, because we see it all the time. Quarterbacks coming in with a hot head, like the hot college quarterback. He comes in like he's got the world on his shoulders. He's got everyone buying his jersey. Everyone's following him on social media. But once it gets time on that field and he takes his first sack and his first loss, if he throws an interception to lose the game, don't dwell on that. Go into the film room, study, and go back out next week. That's the only way the Jaguars can make this work, is by telling him that. And Urban Meyer is a great coach that can teach him that. Like, listen, like, don't, like, he's seen it time and time again. Like, sure, he's a college coach, but he's a true master of the game. He's seen it all the time. Quarterbacks going in hot. They think that it's not going to be so tough, and lo and behold, it is. This ain't college ball anymore. Like, the best player that you saw on the defensive side of the ball in the ACC, that's everyone on that defensive line going after you. Everyone was the best player on their team on that defensive line across from you. That's why they're there. That's why they're paid to take your head off. Especially, he's going to get heckled at the line for that long hair.
Yep.
And, don't pull on those locks. But that's the way that the Jaguars have to make this work, is they need to teach Trevor Lawrence to not ever be in his own way. Otherwise, it could be really bad.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely no doubt that Trevor Lawrence is great at playing football, at least for college. He can throw that football at pinpoint spot, and he's definitely talented. Big thing with rookie quarterbacks, and sometimes they struggle at first and then get better along with it, is that whole mentality. And going to the NFL can be overwhelming. I do kind of like what the Jaguars did, helping Trevor Lawrence with that adjustment, because he does have Urban Meyer, who was a college coach, who's also going to the NFL. So, he's not feeling completely alone there. He can realize that his head coach is kind of in the same boat that he is. And then, although I don't like the pick from the position standpoint, then drafting Travis Etienne in the first round, I think, is going to help him out a lot too. Because when you go from being the captain of Clemson and now you're going to Jacksonville and you don't know a single person there. I mean, that's with anybody with anything. You go to a new school, you go to a new work, like it's a little overwhelming at first because you don't know anybody there. So the fact that he's going to have Travis Etienne follow him there and he's going to have him right next to him to be able to hand the ball off to and throw it to him on screens and stuff. I think that although I don't like them drafting a running back, especially with Robinson and everything, it is smart from the standpoint of helping Trevor kind of make that transition mentally a little bit better.
Yeah, definitely. We kind of stood on different points in that. Like I liked it from the start. I simply just thought that Jacksonville still needed that franchise running back. I thought Travis Etienne, especially with picking Trevor Lawrence, fit that mold. Like he's not going to come in and like be, how Ezekiel Elliott was for the Cowboys and how Barkley was for the Giants. He's not that caliber running back, but he's at least going to be the workhorse for the Jaguars. I think that just makes your rookie's life so much easier when he has a running back to lean on.
Yeah, absolutely.
And speaking on running backs that you can lean on, you have the Tennessee Titans and that mountain of a man at running back. I would not want to be standing in front of that man.
No, definitely not.
Yeah, but I feel like the Titans definitely, they made the biggest move of the offseason. Well, one of the biggest moves of the offseason, and that's trading for Julio Jones. I feel let me say this for Titans fans, if there are any watching. Please, 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 for your team's sake, just because you have Julio Jones, think that the offense can run through Ryan Tannehill. Please do not do that. Your offense runs through Derrick Henry, sticking his arm out there and putting helmets into the grass. That is your offense.
Absolutely.
But yeah, Julio Jones is definitely there to take the load off of the run game. That's why I feel like the Titans are, I said the Colts were the favorites at the start of the episode, but it's really tough to overlook the Titans. You have an amazing young wide receiver in A.J. Brown. You pair him with one of the greatest wide receivers of all time, Julio Jones. You have a top 5 running back in the league, Derrick Henry. Your offense is loaded, and you have a serviceable quarterback to win you some games. He's not going to win you them by himself, but he's another one of those quarterbacks where he doesn't have to win you the game. All he has to do is not lose it for you.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, like I said at the beginning too, the Colts are the favorites, but I mean, it's really is like the Titans are definitely going to be up there for contention because, I mean, I think that Julio trade was huge for them just because before the Julio trade, looking at their offseason, they lost Corey Davis, which I know didn't have the sexiest numbers or anything, but he was a reliable third down target for them. They lost Jonnu Smith at tight end, and he was a beast. They lost Adam Humphries. He's not great, but he was their slot guy. And I'm like, they went from really kind of spreading it around almost to really just having A.J. Brown and Derrick Henry. Right? But then they did go out and get Josh Reynolds from the Rams, and that's just kind of helped replace that Adam Humphries. But now going out and really getting that Julio to kind of offset the losing of Corey Davis and Jonnu Smith. I mean, now they have Julio and A.J. Brown lining up outside each other, Reynolds in the slot, Henry, which, I mean, we've never really seen anybody built like Henry, but I'm a little worried with the Titans too is how long is he going to be able to hold up? Like he's ran for a lot of yards for a lot of years now. I feel like that deterioration is going to start soon. I don't think it's really going to be this year, but I think this might be maybe the last year that you really get a prime Derrick Henry. I'm not saying he's not going to be good and, Pro Bowler, but that 2,000-yard rusher type player, I think you're only going to see another year or two out of that. So now to have Henry, Julio, Brown, and all these weapons, and then also on the other side of the ball, they were I think, historically worst defense on third downs and they went out and got Bud Dupree from the Steelers, Janoris Jenkins from the Saints, and I know they added a couple other. They sold Danico Autry from the Colts. Like, they definitely put pieces on both sides of the ball to definitely improve their team. And I mean, I think they're a much better team this year just because they're a lot more well-rounded, I feel like. And I mean, they were a great team last year. So I think I said with the Colts being the favorite, when they make the playoffs, you're gonna really have that uncertainty of, how far is Wentz gonna take you. Not saying he can win you a game, not saying he can't, but I think the Titans will make the playoffs as well. And I think they're both gonna get into the playoffs. I think the Titans will go farther in the playoffs than the Colts will. I think they just have a really well-built team, and then they're gonna beat. I'm not saying Super Bowl because the Chiefs are just too good, but they're definitely going to be a big competition for the Chiefs this year.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, man. I think it's about time that we release our hot takes for the division. What do you got for the AFC South? Pick.
All right, hot takes. I'm going. Let me think. And most people won't see this as a hot take, but with him, it really is. Derrick Henry is only going to rush for 1,000 yards this year.
Yeah, only 1,000, right?
Only 1,000.
Only.
So he's going to have half the yards that he had last year.
Right. Oh, what a disaster. What a disaster of a season for Derrick Henry. Meanwhile, Julio Jones is over there racking up 1,200 yards of his own.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Another hot take for the same team, too. I don't think he's going to win it, but I do think Ryan Tannehill is going to get a couple MVP votes. I don't think he's going to win MVP, but I think he's going to get a couple votes.
Okay. I can see that. I can see where you're getting at.
What you got?
My hot take, I'm going to go to the Colts. I'm not going for Carson Wentz here. I am going for one of their wide receivers. I am going to go that Michael Pittman will finish among the top 10 wide receivers for receiving yards. I feel like that Michael Pittman has a ton of potential. And if Carson Wentz finds his game in Indianapolis, T.Y. Hilton can still run. He can still burn a defender. But Michael Pittman, what Carson Wentz does best is throwing across the middle. Throwing those intermediate, like in routes coming from behind the linebackers. That's Carson Wentz's best game. And that's what Michael Pittman does so well to his craft, is that he knows how to get open. He knows how to get in and out of routes. And if Michael Pittman gets that chemistry down with Carson Wentz, he's going to easily be in the top 10 for receiving yards. So to me, I feel like Michael Pittman, if there are any fantasy watchers out there, I feel like Michael Pittman is going to be a flex player master this year. I feel like he's due for a big year with a new quarterback that is going to get him the ball, because Carson Wentz likes those types of receivers. That's who Jordan Matthews was. That's who Alshon Jeffrey was before he, turned his back on the team. Wentz likes those types of receivers. So if Pittman turns into that guy, it's good if the owner's happy. So pick Michael Pittman in your fantasy if you got him.
Yep. And speaking of fantasy,
but my other hot take.
Speaking of fantasy too, Jonathan Taylor. That's a must pick up right there.
Yeah, Jonathan Taylor. I'm always skeptical by picking running backs in a 2 running back set, but I got you. I know what you mean. That's just how I play fantasy personally. I never take running backs that are part of a 2 running back set, because if one is not having a good day and it happens to be yours, he ain't getting any touches.
True, it's going to be hard to have
that's how I've never been first in fantasy.
It's gonna it's gonna be hard to have a bad day when you're running behind Quentin Nelson. No?
Yeah, that's true.
When in doubt, just run straight behind him.
Just run to the left side.
Yep, exactly.
He'll be about 10 yards up the field already.
Yep.
Just run where Quentin Nelson used to be.
Yes, exactly.
I'm going to stay on Hot Take City here and say that Carson Wentz does not reach 4,000 yards with the Colts, though. I feel like that's not more so Carson Wentz's problem. I feel like that's more so of him just being able to hand the ball off to running backs. I feel like Carson Wentz's stat line is going to be along the lines of anywhere from 62 to 65 completion percentage, because of not having to throw the ball as much, higher percentage throws. And then he's going to have a yardage list of about maybe 35 to 3,600 and get close to 30 touchdowns. Now we'll see about those turnovers. Those are the issues that the Colts fans have to watch out for. He can have that stat line, but he better not be fumbling 2-3 times a game, because sooner or later you're gonna lose one of them. So
yeah, I can agree with that hot take, because I think if the Colts really want to be successful, is really gonna be run the ball and play good defense kind of team.
Mm-hmm.
And when you got teams that are primarily based like that, you're really gonna, your quarterback's not gonna have the greatest stats. Like, I kind of think that Carson Wentz, and I'm not saying Jonathan Taylor and Nyheim Hines combined, I don't think are as good as this other guy, but as long Derrick Henry has helped out Ryan Tannehill a lot. If Jonathan Taylor and Nyheim Hines can just do a little like what Derrick Henry can do for Ryan Tannehill, that Wentz will do plenty enough.
Yeah, I don't get the narrative of a lot of people saying that Carson Wentz is going to return back to 2017 form. There is where I will draw the line. I hate to say it, but he is never going to be that guy again. And I feel like a lot of that also has to do with the team that he landed on. He doesn't have to be that guy, which is why he could find success and save his career before it goes too downhill. Is, being on this team with a lot of potential, a lot of young players. He doesn't have to feel that pressure to be that guy, because I feel like that was another one of Wentz's biggest problems in Philly, is he was trying too hard to be that 2017 Carson Wentz when it wasn't there anymore. I hate to say it, but that torn ACL and LCL in his left knee was the death. When that Carson Wentz was gone. He can say like, my knee feels fine. Like I feel normal. Like, yeah, you might feel normal, but we saw it as Eagles fans. That mobility from Carson Wentz from 2017 to how he ended last year is, like, if you put it side by side, is polar opposites. That torn up knee in his left knee hindered him. Whether he wants to admit it or not, that's his biggest problem. Not saying it lingers, but I'm saying that it hurt him. It hurt him in more ways than one. And I feel like that's why he's in Indianapolis now.
Yeah, you can definitely tell ever since that he's a lot less mobile. And I feel like that's a big part of his decline in play, is I think he's a lot more successful when he can, get up to the outside and run if he needs to. And, not that running was a huge part of his game, but getting outside of the pocket is really where he seemed to find some success. But I agree. I don't think we're going to see that 2017 form Carson Wentz. But if he does go to Indianapolis and he does play amazing this season, they win a ton of games, maybe they go deep, make a deep playoff push. I'm sure a lot of there's definitely going to be some Eagles fans that are like, oh, great, of course, he's not washed up what are you doing, Howie Roseman? Why did you get rid of him and everything? And honestly, I hope he does well in Indianapolis. Like, he did do a lot for this. I know the ending wasn't the best, but he did do a lot for this city. He did help us. Without Carson Wentz in 2017, we're not winning that Super Bowl. So, I mean, I know he didn't do it himself, but he brought Philadelphia their first Super Bowl win. And so, like, I hope he goes to Indianapolis, and I honestly hope he wins another one. Like, as long as Philly isn't in contention that year.
Yeah. I'm so 50-50 on Carson Wentz as a fan, because like, there will always be a part of me that loves him, because he was a part of that team. Without Carson Wentz that year, we have Nick Foles for a whole season, and no disrespect to Foles, but he had a flash in the pan of a magical playoff run, and it got us the Super Bowl. But without Carson Wentz leading us the entire season, we have no Super Bowl. But on the end of the rope, he quit. He quit last year when his job was in jeopardy. Like, so that's the other part of me that's like, 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 I'll always have some love for you, because you were, such a big part to that team. You're one of the reasons why the team has a Super Bowl banner in the rafters of Lincoln Financial Field. But last year, when the going got tough and your job was in question, you quit. And like, the report came out 2 days later that he requested a trade. So that's the other part of me that's like, like, good riddance in a way. Like, I don't like guys that when their job is in question, they want out. That I don't roll like that.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. And I'm not saying that he should be in Philadelphia anymore. I think it was 100% time for both sides to get out
the time
of it.
was gone. It was
Yeah.
It was mutual in the Peterson firing, and it was mutual in the Carson Wentz departure.
Yeah, absolutely. But you know what? I hope Carson Wentz goes to Indy, plays well. But what I hope more is that Jalen Hurts can come in and ball out. And, that's the thing that Eagles fans really hope for, that, Hurts can play better than Carson Wentz, and then we'll be set up.
See, that's what I like about Hurts, though, is that he has time to grow, and he's younger than what Carson Wentz was when we drafted him. I think Jalen Hurts is only 22, I'm pretty sure, and he's in his second year. Jalen Hurts is 22 and he's in his second year. Carson Wentz was 24 going on 25 when we drafted him, because he was a fifth-year senior.
Yeah. And when the one thing that I did not like about the Carson Wentz departure, and I know it probably wasn't because of this reason, it was probably a different reason, and it's a very small and petty thing. But I kind of hate the fact that Jalen Hurts, who took his job, wears number 2, and he decided to go to Indy and wear the same number as Jalen Hurts. I know it probably has something else, but really, you're gonna wear it. So props to Jalen Hurts for them changing it to 1.
Yep, Jalen Hurts went petty right back. Yep.
Yep. Exactly.
Yeah, because we won't get into all that, but but yeah, I feel like the Eagles, like, while in an uncertainty in a way, because the moves that the Eagles have made is indicative that they're not quite giving up on what they think they have right now, but they're still in a way rebuilding. Because the Eagles, like, if you go up and down the roster and look at age, it's a pretty young team, aside from the veterans that we have here. So I think the Eagles are, like, if Jalen Hurts proves this year, like, it's another situation. He doesn't have to, lead the team to the playoffs. He doesn't have to win the division. He just has to show promise. He just has to show that he can lead this team. And if he does that, the Eagles will be in, I think, a better spot than what Indianapolis is right now with Carson Wentz, because Jalen Hurts proves that he can lead a team. And if Carson Wentz leads the scenario that the Eagles get that first round pick. The Eagles have their quarterback already, who's still learning, who can still grow into something even better, and has 3 first round picks to build around said quarterback.
Yep, exactly. So to finalize the AFC South, what are your record predictions for these 4 teams?
Okay, record prediction. I'm going to go the Indianapolis Colts finish with a 11-6 record that wins them the division. Following them in second place, it's a close second. It is the Tennessee Titans. They finish with a 10-7. I feel like the Colts and the Titans could really be at each other's throat all season long, and it could just comes down to that last matchup between the 2 teams, and that's whoever wins that final game wins the division.
Yeah.
Third behind them, I'm going to go Jacksonville, finishes with a 7-10. I feel like they have a lot of promise, they have a lot of potential, but they're not there yet. Trevor Lawrence will win them some games, but their inexperience will still haunt them in a way. It's still the reason why they went 1-15 last year. All they solved was the quarterback position. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And
the Texans, it's brutal. But they're not going 1-15. They're not going 1-16. God, that's still me getting used to that. For years we were just saying 1-15, 2-14, but now I am going to go with a 3-14 record for the Houston Texans, with a departure of Deshaun Watson.
Yep. So mine's pretty similar. I'm going Colts winning the division. I think also with an 11-6 record. Although I think the Titans, I think they're gonna be tied. I think they are also gonna finish with an 11-6 record. I think Colts will have the tiebreaker. But I do think that the Colts are going to lose in the first round, and I think the Titans will win at least one playoff game, at least. Then for Jacksonville, I'm going 6-11, which 6 times better than last year, but I think it's the amount of youth and inexperience that they still have. I think it's going to be 6-11. I think next year, once they all have more experience, they're going to be much better, and finally get that winning record Jacksonville's been waiting for. I don't think that it's this year. I think 6-11. Then I think about week 10, 11, 12. We're going to be on watch for the Houston Texans to be the first 0-17 team. But I think, so they're going to be like 0-10, 0-11. We're going to be like, are they going to do it? And just to, when they get close and we think they're going to win one game there at the end. So I'm going 1-16 for the Houston Texans. And that is as long as Deshaun Watson does not play. It's entirely different if he does play. They're definitely going 0-17 if he does. No, just kidding. But Texans will definitely have the number 1 pick in the 2022 NFL draft. So now let's do a way too early 22 NFL mock draft. No, just kidding. Way too early.
What? Spencer Rattler going first overall? I don't think so. This guy can't even throw a drag pattern.
Exactly. Oh, man.
But we want to thank everyone again for stopping in this week. It was another successful week of breaking down one of these divisions in the AFC. Be right back here next week as we go back into the NFC. But until then, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And we will see you all next week.
Thanks for watching.